Welcome back to the Hodcast, where you get all things construction, training, and conversations. This week, Dan Edwards, incredible man. He is part of Constructed Pathways. He works alongside and with people from prisons, people from schools. We talk all about the industry in this conversation, from the challenge that schools are having getting young people into construction, the struggles of apprenticeships, training providers, second chances, as I said, success stories from prisons, and everything in between. This is a really, really good one. If you want to learn anything about this, Dan Edwards is the man. Okay, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Dan, what happens to a country when schools are not prepping young people with the skills that they really need in the real world?
Good question. They become NEET, effectively. So NEET is not in education, employment or training. It's a word you'll hear a lot in the government at the minute. We're up to close to 1 million of 16 to 22-year-olds, I think it is, wow. 23-year-olds that are not in education, employment or training. And it is rising every single year. And them kids need an opportunity. We've got skill shortages in pretty much every industry in the UK. Yeah, we've got 1 million kids that need an opportunity and need development and need a career.
Well, you're the main man at Constructed Pathways. Yeah. Before Constructed Pathways, what shaped your understanding of education, opportunity, and actually what young people really need to thrive? Like, if there was an origin story, what would it be?
Yeah, the origin is probably my dad. So my dad is a carpenter and joiner by trade. His dad was. I would have been a fourth or fifth generation carpenter and joiner.
I bet they're so disappointed that you're not a carpenter and joiner.
No, honestly, they're not, because I was useless. That's partly the reason I didn't do it, to be fair. And look, when my dad did it, there wasn't a lot of money in it, to be honest. My dad came into London in the end, and he was leaving at 5:30 every morning to earn a living. So he pushed me in the opposite direction, to be honest. I had a bit of a weird upbringing. My dad was really working class. My mum was the opposite end of the spectrum, private school or educated. Travelled the world with my grandfather with his job. So I had real two ends of the spectrum from an education point of view. My dad just didn't turn up at school, to be perfectly honest. But I used to listen to him when he took apprentices and trainees, and he just used to moan constantly about them. They weren't motivated, didn't work hard enough, didn't have the skills, didn't have any skills in some cases. And I look back now and I just think, when my dad was at school and when he did turn up, they did metalwork, they did woodwork, they did practical skills. And we just don't do that in schools anymore, or we don't do it enough. There are some schools that do it around the UK, but we don't do it enough. And the curriculum is based on something 60 years ago, and it just hasn't changed. And times have changed. Construction has changed dramatically. The days of a 5-year apprenticeship in carpentry and joinery are well gone. And I think that's where. I went to university. I did really poorly in my GCSEs, which the teachers predicted. And my mum and dad gave me a kick up the arse and it didn't work. So I went off to Cambridge Regional College pretty much on my own. I did business studies as a GMVQ, which everybody told me at the time stood for going nowhere very quickly. I still remember that to this day. But
same for me. GMVQ's gone.
So I went there and I did business studies because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I had an unbelievable, and it kills me to this day, I can't remember her name, but the most inspirational HR lecturer. And I just found it really, really easy. And as a kid, I always took the easy option. And she said to me, "What are you going to do next?" And I said, "I don't know." She said, "Why don't you go to university and do HR?" Never really considered it. So I went to university and did HR. But I learned loads from her. not just about HR. Like, she was the first teacher, lecturer, facilitator, whatever you want to call them these days, that actually treated us like an adult. And we had a really, really good laugh with her. And everything she taught me just stuck. And that's what I took that into when I got into my career. And she was just normal. And there's a lot to be said for being normal with people, and just treating them with a bit of respect. And she did that. And I'm devastated I can't remember her name, because she was phenomenal. She used to take us like on a Friday after college. She had a very successful husband, so she drove a convertible blue BMW, and she used to drop us outside Weatherspoons on a Friday after college. Like, everything she probably shouldn't have done, but we just used to have a laugh with her. And I went to do HR, so obviously a little bit of L&D in there. And then a little bit later on, I did HR for 18 years, 19 years, mainly engineering, manufacturing, bit of food. And then I got the opportunity to run the Skills Academy at Marshall. So we, long heritage of delivering apprenticeships into aviation, must be about 108 years of apprenticeships, 21,000 apprentices we put into the UK economy. And we were the best of the best. We were like in the top 3% of apprenticeship providers. We were flying. We run Bombardier, big maintenance repair organisation. Like all the fast jets, like Lewis Hamilton's jet was a Bombardier.
Wow.
And it was wicked. And then, so we took them and we grew the apprenticeship numbers from about 15, 20 internal Marshall apprentices to what would have been 120 in the last year. We were on the cusp of winning Ryanair, and I just like to give people an opportunity. I was in HR for years, and I'll tell you a quick story. I like a story. We had a lady called Jo Boyd who she was in HR as well, and she took us for this like session on stress management, and we had to listen to whale music. I sat there trying to be engaging, right? Because I'm in HR, should like lead the cause for it. And I was thinking, what the hell is this nonsense, right? And then Guns N' Roses, she was supposed to have this whale music on repeat, and Guns N' Roses come blaring out, which was comical at the time. And then she put another one on about what was your inner belief. And I was thinking, oh, Joe, please not again. I've got like proper work to do. And it was probably the best thing that I ever did, because when I was younger, I had a real challenge with keeping my emotions under check and my frustration, and it just come out, and I would say stuff that I would regret later. I would upset people. I weren't everybody's cup of tea, because I would just say it how it was, and there was no real filter. And I had coaching. Of course, I got coached by a senior exec at BBC, and even she can help me, to be fair. She did a good job. But we did this in a belief, and it came down to that my inner belief is that everybody believes it should have an opportunity in life. And that's why I used to get frustrated, because if I saw somebody have an opportunity and they didn't take it, or I saw somebody that didn't have an opportunity because of their background or their wealth or who their parents was, it used to proper frustrate me. Or when the MDs of organisations I work with, they have an opportunity to shape a business and responsibility for 200 people's mortgages, and they mess it up, and that used to really frustrate me. But this inner belief was just opportunity, and it made me grow up overnight. And that's why I love doing what I do now, is we give opportunities to people that probably haven't had any in life. And I'm lucky, right? I've got 4 kids and they're spoiled, and they'll get opportunities because the background and the lifestyle we have and the people we know, right? But not everybody is in that position, and yeah.
No, that's the tricky part, isn't it? Because for some people, they don't get a first chance, but you're also like working on people's second chances as well.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot in the prison, because we work with HMP Peterborough Prison, and we delivered some bricklaying training in there. And at the start we were talking about second chances, and we stopped saying that now, because actually for a lot of the individuals we met, it is their first chance. Like, their background stories are horrendous, and they've never had anybody that's really cared for them, really given them an opportunity. So we talk about second chances, but for them, it is a first chance in life, and a first opportunity. And that they're in prison, right? They're naughty, but some of them is, and I can't defend what some of them have done, right? But some of them it is just for survival. And if I was living on the streets, I don't know what I would do, but we're quite quick to judge. And actually, so we've got Sarah and Shah on site with GSQ, which is brilliant, and I love Gary to bits for giving them that opportunity. But the loyalty you get from them for giving them an opportunity and show them a little bit of time and a little bit of respect, it is off the scale. Like, Shah rings me every day at like 4 o'clock to tell me about her day. Like, my kids don't even tell me about their day when I get home from school. But yeah, they're brilliant, and they graft because somebody has shown an opportunity, and they've got a purpose in life now.
Well, let's dig into your work in sort of prisons, because you do work with contract. Mick George is one, and obviously GSQ is another. I haven't had, unfortunately, I missed Shah. I was saying to you before, I missed Shah. I was on the site she was on the other day, and I missed her, unfortunately. But for someone who has had such a rough time, or even if they've not had a rough time, some people just make poor decisions like that. You know, some people have terrible lives and terrible, their origin stories are, harrowing for many. What does it take to rebuild their confidence and identity through that? Because I know that you put on things not just because you want to give them an opportunity, but actually to sort of rebuild who they are as a person as well.
I think that, do you know what? I think that's the project we ran in the prison was a pilot. We didn't really know how it was going to go, and it went way better than we ever envisaged to. But the one thing I really regret doing is taking like some sort of mental health test at the start and at the end of the 6 weeks, because when I interviewed them to come on the course, you've got 11 females that I'm not really sure, if I'm honest, whether they wanted to go out and lay bricks. They just wanted to get off the wing, right? And there was definitely some of the 11 that was the case. And they had the hoodies up. They didn't make eye contact. There's a big challenge with females in prison around male and trust, because a lot of the females are in there for some sort of coercion or male influence in their life. So it does take some time to break down the barriers. But I remember at the end of the 6 weeks when we had a bit of a graduation with them, and we gave them a certificate, etc. And I walk in the room and like they come and give me a hug and stuff like that. And one of the Sodexo guys who went around the facility said it's the most energetic, uplifting, motivating part of the prison, of all the prisons Sodexo look after, he's ever been to in 10 years. And I was chatting to one of the guards about it, and he said, you're the first person that comes in and treats them like they're a normal human being. And it goes back to what I said about that teacher. They're normal human beings. Like you said, that some of them have taken the wrong path in life, but they are normal human beings, and who am I to judge them, right? I've made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. We've all sped. We've all gone above the speed limit and not been caught. Unfortunately, some of them have been caught. But I just didn't treat them like normal human beings. But if you could have seen their like posture, their confidence, the colour in like their face, and the enthusiasm in the communication, it was like a really like proud moment. It was and something that we never expected to get out of the programme. Because and there was a lady called Lorna who wrote us a letter who said, it's the first time in my life, bear in mind I think she was 36, first time in my life I found something I'm good at. Wow. Yeah, and honestly, right, she was the one. I did what every L&D person, every HR person shouldn't do, which I should have known better from HR. We had 11 spaces. She was the 11th choice. So it was a bit of a bum on the seat, right? And from a HR point of view, she would not really ever do that. But she was like outrageously good. NHBC, who delivered the training for us, said she is better than 70% of bricklayers on site within 6 weeks. She just had to really natural, and they did like little tests on speed, quality, etc., tidiness, and she won everything. Like she was off the scale good. But she's my biggest regret because she was the one she got replaced in Leicester, and she was the one so far that we've struggled to find an opportunity for. But she was off the scale good. Like NHBC were like, Jesus, she is. Yeah, she would show a lot of the skill guys on site up.
Wow. Well, you obviously that was a partnership with the NHBC.
Yeah.
What have these partnerships taught you about the potential of, like, for the people inside that the industry sort of overlooks, and doesn't it? What has it taught you about the people, even within prisons, or elsewhere for that matter? Because you don't just work in prisons, obviously, but we're really quick. I mean, myself included, to overlook the people who are the 11th place.
Yeah.
The 11th seat or whatever.
Yeah, no, we are quick to judge. We work with the Department for Work and Pensions a lot, so what we've got the old job centre, and the Mick George program was a prime example. So we know the Mick George HR director, guy called Michael. And they were struggling for dozer drivers, struggling to recruit them. They'd do interview days, and like less than 50% would turn up. You'd get him on site, and then within a week they'd all disappeared. So I took it as a bit of a personal challenge. I'm like massively competitive, I should add. So I take that as a bit of a challenge to see I can see if I could do it. And if I'm honest, I don't think he'll mind me say it. Mick George himself was a little bit sceptical. Whether it'd work, and whether we could get people that have been unemployed into a role, because there is a stigma around them. They're lazy, they don't want to work, they just take benefits, etc., etc. So we went to 3 or 4 of the local job centres 3 or 4 times, and we just interviewed them and spoke to them. And you have to be careful because look, construction from where it was 10 years ago is different, right? And it had to be different from a health and safety point of view, culture point of view. Everything's going in the right direction, which is brilliant. But you still need to be a little bit robust as well. Let's not kid ourselves, right? And we were quite honest with the job centre and the individuals. We worked with a combined local authority for their internship. We took 5 young lads. I say 5 young lads. One of them was my age, so I'll class him as young still, I guess. But they were ranging from 9 weeks unemployed all the way to 9 months. So they went in on an internship. So they got 6 weeks of pay. Mick George got to get to know them for 6 weeks as well. And they went through training for 6 weeks. And 4 of them are there. 4 of them now working a permanent job. Wow. And it's brilliant. Brilliant, because again, people criticise the job centre, but it's a bit like careers, which we'll probably talk about later, like the careers advisor. How on earth do we expect a careers advisor or somebody in the job centre to know every single industry and every single job to give advice to? Like, industry has to step in and help. Like, there is no way. Like, when I was in career, back in school, careers was you used to fill some details out on a computer and it spat out a job.
It was like kudos.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah,
on the thing.
Yeah, mine was a teacher or a police officer.
Mine was always a golf greenkeeper.
Love a bit of golf.
I'm not sure I'd want to be the greenkeeper. No. That's quite an important job.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, if them greens aren't flat, you're in trouble.
Well, we've sort of gone around the houses a little bit, but. You talk about the fact that you do place people, whether that is from someone who comes from a really troubled background, who's maybe ended up in prison, or someone who's been out of work for some amount of time. And now those people obviously do the sort of 6 weeks or whatever it is to start, but then I guess that they get put on an apprenticeship or some form of formal training. You spend a lot of time working with training providers. What is the apprenticeship model getting right, and where does it maybe fall short a little bit in your experience?
So I'll start with the UK apprenticeship model is best in the world, right? Don't let anybody tell you anything different. The Germans will probably disagree because they're super efficient in everything they do. But I loved it that much. So in my previous job at Marshall, we took the UK apprenticeship model to Canada on the East Coast as part of the biggest bid in Canadian defence history. It was like £1.6 billion of infrastructure. And we set up a training facility called Earn As You Learn. We took the best bits of the UK apprenticeship model over there. They do have an apprenticeship in Canada, but it is a bit old-fashioned. It is a bit outdated. And we took the UK model over there, and the fact that you can get a job, you get paid, your education's paid for, and you get a qualification. Now, the education in Canada, diploma degree, you have to pay for. Not quite as expensive as the States, but still expensive. It still stops kids getting further educated because of their background and the ability for the family to pay for it. And they could not believe what we were talking about, what we had in the UK. And we went out to a province called New Brunswick, and we rolled out within 9 months. We got 6.8 million Canadian dollars off the UK, off the province, and through collaboration as well. I should add, we teamed up with the college and the university, and we had a stroke of luck. The college was run by a lady from Northern Ireland, so she knew the UK apprenticeship model quite well, and the university was a German, so she knew apprenticeships in a different form to what was in Canada. So we had a stroke of luck, but I think they're brilliant. Like the degree apprenticeship is, whoever come up with that, it was an absolute stroke of genius. The fact that you can study for a degree and put it into practical application, it's just brilliant, right? And it is truly brilliant, and it stops those kids that can't afford to go to university studying and furthering themselves, which I love. You're not in debt, which I love even more. I went to university in way too much debt. So it's brilliant. It's really, really good. It's really good, but it doesn't fit all.
So what do you think the drawbacks are from what you've experienced? Because obviously you say it's the best.
Yeah,
you're obviously quite biased.
Yeah.
Which is fine, and you're allowed to be that biased. But you're also, I know that you're also a critical thinker. So what holds back apprenticeships?
So we had this conversation the other day, and I felt like I had daggers in my back because Skills England were doing the questions, and I was critical of Skills England, and because somebody asked the question, what are you doing for future careers in 20 years? And I said, that's like the $1 million question. And from a HR point of view, I would argue with anybody, you can't answer that question. We didn't know what AI was going to take over the world. Like ChatGPT has just changed my life. We have no idea what's going to happen in 20 years. The only way that we can educate people in 20 years is you have to be agile and you have to move with the times, and it has to be industry led. And that is where the apprenticeship model falls over. Although it is industry-led from the fact that you have trailblazers to set up the standards and the curriculum, it is too slow to react. So if you look at trailblazers, so if me and you wanted to set up a new apprenticeship, we'd have to get industry involved, rightly so, but you're talking like 2.5 years to get through the programme of setting it up. And you look at, the one I use all the time is car mechanics. They ask, you look at, you've driven a Tesla in today, battery powered.
Thanks for telling everyone.
Yeah, but they don't, oh yeah, we might edit that bit out. But they still don't teach that in an apprenticeship, battery. It's not caught up. And we look at...
it must be. I reckon 50% of the country must have an electric car now. Maybe slightly less.
So they're doing an apprenticeship in motor mechanics and then have to do an additional qualification or additional training after, which is bonkers. And if you look at carpentry and joinery, it drives my dad mad, right? Because my dad did a 5-year apprenticeship in carpentry and joinery, and that doesn't work now, because if you look at modern day construction and house building, especially, everything's prefab. Like my dad didn't use a nail gun in 46 years. No. And it staggers my dad. That's what they're doing now, because he's been retired for like 5-6 years. It's a different. You don't need to teach them all 40+ joinery skills. There is a need for it, right, in the more complex jobs and the restorations, etc. But like, we talk to the house builders, and they're like, I just need somebody to build me a stud wall, which is square, which is straight, that I can hang a door that preferably fits. No, honestly,
is that joinery? I guess the argument your dad's saying is that's not even joinery.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
That is nailing two bits of wood together.
Correct, but that's the only qualification.
Yeah.
And it takes 4 years, and you've got to build up a portfolio which you can't achieve.
How many? Yeah. Well, I guess from one side of that argument, there is, you're right. Maybe they should change that qualification so that you are a prefab house maker,
100%.
and all you need to do is learn how to make a door frame and a stud wall.
Correct.
Whereas if you want to get, as you say, a qualification in joinery, my brother's a carpenter. Mm-hmm. Well, my brother's actually in facilities management now, I think. He does lots of things, but he trained as a carpenter, and he was he made. I remember him coming back from college. He was like, "I made this for me, gave it to my mum." It was a rocking chair, but it was like the smallest rocking chair you'll ever see. But it was like, wow, that's like really impressive. And he'd come back and he's done like dovetail joints, like without because they have those like router things now, don't they? Like the routers that. You just press it down and it does the whole joint for you. Yeah. Whereas he was like there with his tools and that, like
my dad was the same.
It's crazy, like how, as you say, there's no agility within the system.
Yeah, and unfortunately for construction, they've got a massive issue with apprenticeships. It's fine for your high level, the office, your professionals, shall we say. But the number one rule of apprenticeships is, which you cannot get around, and I'm quite creative in my thinking, and there is no way around this, is you have to be employed. And most of this industry is self-employed. So they can't get on an apprenticeship. So you're snookered from day one. And look at my dad did an apprenticeship at Colson's in Cambridge. It takes 30 a year. Just on carpentry and joinery, let alone the brickwork and the plumbing and et cetera, et cetera. They sub everything out now. They'll argue that. They'll tell me they've got small departments that are specialists. But ultimately, they used to take 30, 40 a year, including my dad, on a 5-year apprenticeship. And now everything's subbed. So it puts a lot of pressure on the subbies to train them. And it is costly. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, you take an apprenticeship, you can probably write off this first 2, 3, 4 months of zero productivity. Yeah. You've got to pay them, and rightly so. And we were lucky. Like a previous job, we would never talk about them being a cost. It was an investment, and that's the mentality you've got to get into. But if you're a smaller business, like we were Marshall, right? We had 2,000 employees. Yeah. We could.
If you're an SME, your P&L sheet matters, right?
Yeah,
like your profit and loss actually matters on a monthly basis. And if they're not generating you income,
correct,
within the first few months.
And what do you do in December and January when you rained off?
Exactly.
And it's tough, and it's tough for the colleges, because if you do get an apprenticeship on program, or the level 2 full time on program, is like, the government pay scales. You can go and earn 80p a brick and earn a damn good living. Look at what Gary says. Within 3 years.
80p's a bit much. Yeah. If you can find 80p a brick, sign me up, coach.
But you look what Gary says. Gary has in Barking, doesn't he, his little whiteboard, and he's doing the maths, and he's saying within 3-4 years they could be earning £50,000 a year, which is life changing, right? It's a decent salary. So how are you going to get somebody to deliver the training for 35,000? And they are in a real tough position. Like, we were lucky from an independent training provider, because we didn't have the government pay scale, so we could pay them. Like, we train people on how to fix aircraft. So guess who were the best people? Were the people that used to fix them, but their salaries are high, so we had to match them to get them. So we were probably paying 40-50% more than if they were delivering in a college.
Well, but I'm in a privileged position. I get to talk to lots of people about this, and that is exactly what they say. People in colleges, and maybe that's why. So, and I think what you're sort of alluding to is the system around because no college tutor, lecturer, teacher, anyone like that goes in to be a lecturer, teacher, or whatever because they want an easy life. Like it is not.
No,
it's not a hard thing.
life.
It's not an easy thing to do,
not.
right?
Oh, it's
but
not.
and you certainly don't go into it for the pay.
No.
But there's, when you see people in industry earning, I mean, look at me. Like I earn an all right salary, right? But my wife, who runs a nursery, she's literally the manager of a nursery. Like her job is sort of nurturing young lives.
Yeah.
And she gets paid considerably less than I do, whereas arguably her job is considerably more important than mine. And that's sort of the same in the construction. These people are building houses, and that's brilliant. And because people need houses. Yeah. But if you, as you say, if the people that are teaching the people to build the houses are getting paid than the people who are actually paid less than those guys, like you're going to lose the will to live at that point, because it's harder generally because you're having to, having to fit within this thing that doesn't, is outdated, is sort of flabby and not very agile.
Yeah, and if I'm a bit pokey, is that the careers advice in schools is questionable, and unfortunately for the schools, the funding follows the kid. So they want you to go and do A-levels, and they want you to go and do degree because it looks good on Ofsted, etc., etc. But the naughty kids who aren't going to get good qualifications, they push to the colleges because you have to stay in education to 18. And it was the same as my dad tells a story. There's him and Rupert, both did their apprenticeship at Colson's. Both went for the recruitment day together, went to school together. And Rupert was the one that got good CSEs or whatever they were back then. And my dad wasn't, because my dad didn't turn up for school. And there was two queues. Both wanted to go to the right to do a trade. And Rupert, they got stopped Rupert and looked at his grade and said, "You're too intelligent for this. You should go in that queue. I don't want to go in the office. I want to go and do carpentry and joinery like my dad." "Yeah, but you're too intelligent." And there is still a bit of a stigma around that the naughty kids, the not intelligent kids go and do construction. And then you give the teachers even more of a challenge, because you're putting the kids that, one, don't really want to be there but have to stay in education, and two, are a little bit more naughty, because the education model of dare I say it, sitting in a classroom a little bit deaf by PowerPoint being spoken to, it doesn't fit every kid anymore.
Well, arguably, I'm going to say it, saying it. It doesn't fit any kid anymore, right? I don't think it fits anybody. No. I think you're being really kind saying that it doesn't fit many. Right? I get it. I get the job of, if you look at, so we're in a really weird place at the moment, right? Because of AI and all the stuff that's going around in the world. But if you look back to the last major revolution we had, that's basically when school started. Yep. And if you look at the way school looked then, it looks exactly the same now. There's one person speaking to 30 people in front of it was a blackboard then, but it's now a whiteboard, interactive screen, whatever it is. And you watch a few more videos or whatever, but it's basically the basic premise of school is the same as it was
Industrial Revolution
during the Industrial Revolution.
Correct. We even taught batches, which is a year group.
Yeah, and it's not. Yes, and that's exactly it. So, how do you expect to see meaningful change if it looks exactly the same as it did 200 years ago? Yeah. We're not. Well, I suppose arguably we are building houses roughly the same as we did 100 years ago, 200 years ago, whatever. But the people who were building houses didn't go to school then. No. They didn't. They literally didn't go to school. They maybe couldn't even read because they were just good at the trade that they were doing. And that was okay. Yeah. We are now in this weird place where you have to be mega intelligent and you have to be this and you have to be that to just fit in.
No, and I look like... you are. Steve's better at this part of it than me a little bit. Steve's the other business part. He's from education, and he talks about the Industrial Revolution and how it set the curriculum, etc., etc. But but there are pockets of excellence in other industries, right? Like, I love my football, and the guys will laugh at me that I've got football into this podcast. But if you look,
we talk a lot about football here, by the way.
So I coach a little under-12s team, and we're relatively good, to be fair. Now, if we come into London, will we be good? I don't know, because we're in a small little village and towns. But we play a year up. right? To make it more competitive. Because what is the point of winning 15, 20-0 every week? Right? We don't develop, we don't learn. The opposition certainly don't learn. They learn to lose, but it's probably not the best way to lose a game of football. And it's brutal. Like the Belgians do it with, you look at the Kev De Bruynes of this world, the Mertens of this world. They were small kids who were young in their age group, so they dropped them down a year. And I sit in the education system. I've got 4 kids. Right? There's a piece of advice: don't have 4 kids. It's really tiring. But I have a real mixture of with education with my kids. So Molly is the oldest. She's 14, and she has to work really, really damn hard, like really, really hard. And even through primary school, she was the one in her little group of friends that was behind. She never got as far in reading, never really got as far in maths. No, she's catching them up because she bless her, she grasps. Jack is just gone to secondary school. He's like a genius. He irritates the hell out of Molly because he just finds everything easy. And now he's getting a little bit lazy because he doesn't have to work very hard. But he can do maths that Molly's doing, who's 3 years older than him. But he's having to do year 7 maths because that's what the curriculum. And I just think we treat all the kids the same, or the lowest common denominator sometimes. And I just think if you want to push people and give them an opportunity, you need to think a little bit differently. And I'm not sure the education system is quite.
Well, I was talking with our first ever episode, actually, with Charlie Collison. My first conversation with Charlie Collison. You know, Charlie Collison, if you don't, get out from under you and if you rock.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the fact that schools, he's going to homeschool his kids, he said. And we were talking about the schools, generally speaking, teach the median child. Like, you know, the top 20%, they're, you know, in some schools they do that very well and they stream them and, you know, they go up and do various other things. And but the bottom like 20% or even probably 10% actually are almost like they just don't really know what to do with them.
So
they go, I don't know what to do with them. Put them in construction. It's like, I get it. That's fine. But how do people draw their value from that? You know, and I think you do a lot of work with Constructive Pathways about people's value. And, you know, just talking about Shah and Sarah from the prison service, like I'm sure they feel valued now because they've actually got something to feel valued about. You know, they've got themselves a job, they've got themselves some money. You know, and with that comes, you know, and even a community of people around them. You know, the people that work around them,
who have been great, I should add as well.
Well,
the GSQ lads have been brilliant with them. Really good.
You know, and construction really is a place where you can feel like really solid value.
I put a post on LinkedIn the other week. So, like I said, like my dad has come to enjoy now, and I'm useless at everything like that. Christ, he's 70 next May, and he still comes round to hang a picture up in my house. So I'm that bad. I'll go back to that in a minute. But I put a picture on LinkedIn the other day. So it sounds really posh, but I've got an electric gate. I know. They've been a bane of my life because they never bloody work. So my dad came round with a guy called Adrian, who they did their apprenticeship together, who worked together for 25 years, and they fixed it. And that's what I said. It's not just about the qualification and the job. It's the friendship. Like my dad still kicks around with. We went on holiday for 15 years on the bounce with the same couple and their kids, who my dad did his apprenticeship with. You build a really, because you're all in it together as well, right? And you're the new kid, and we all know when you go to school, it's horrible being a new kid or going into a new job, but you all come together at the same time. And there are 5 or 6 of them that still go out probably every quarter for a beer. And in the close to 70s now. And it's just a really, I love construction because as well it doesn't judge, right? And you've got all sorts of characters as you'll well be aware of, but they don't judge. They're very welcoming. And they're grafters, right?
Well, yeah. The idea, so you also a lot about collaboration.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the wealth the wealth divide, because I know you have. Yeah. I've seen some of your LinkedIn posts, and you have a bit to say. So you talk about the growing wealth divide and growing construction skills gap happening at the same time. Why do you believe that collaboration is the answer to both?
Look, first of all, collaboration is the only way you're going to stop this skills gap. Like, it's the only way you're going to close it. You have to have industry aligned with education. Right? That has to come together, but there also has to be somebody to help fund it. But what I would say on the wealth bit is that some of the big boys, I won't say who they are. They're earning phenomenal profits, right, and pay phenomenal dividends, right. And we touched on it earlier. They don't employ. They employ the professional sector, the project managers, etc. of this world, and they don't go down to the guys on the shop floor, as we call it, on the trade. They need to help the SMEs financially, because we talked about it being an investment, and it is an investment in future. But there is a huge cost to the SMEs of taking apprentices, because it isn't just the productivity; it's the tooling, it's the van potentially, it's the training. It's we know that GSQ do a great job, and Pat, like, we love Pat, but when you take Pat off laying bricks, it's a cost that GSQ having to stump up, which is brilliant, but they're building houses on behalf of somebody else a lot higher up the food chain. And I just think there needs to be a little bit more support from them guys. And we work with a few partners around their corporate social responsibility, and we're working with the CITB on the National Skills Academy for Construction. And we're talking to some of the big boys, and then they have KPIs they have to meet, which get pushed down to the supply chain. And we are saying to the big boys now, you need to support these guys. You can't just expect them to bring in apprentices or trainees or train local people, employ local people without some sort of support. And it is a challenge. It is a challenge.
Yeah, when you say things like that, what comes into my mind is, like, over the years, there's sort of, from, I guess, when your dad was doing his apprenticeship up until now, maybe somewhere along that spectrum has been an erosion of trust. That's sort of where my mind just went straight there now. Like, there's almost this erosion of trust between what used to be a main contractor, now a principal contractor, and the subcontractor. So the main the principal contractor, maybe, and this is speculation, by the way, this is not, I'm sort of spitballing as we go. The idea that the principal contractor doesn't want to give the SME more money for the apprentice because there's not quite that trust of how they're going to actually spend that money. Yeah. Like, there aren't, like, I've sat in social value meetings and they go around, I mean, most of them are on Teams these days, or Zoom or whatever. And they go around and going, have you got an apprentice on site? How many apprentices have you got on site? There's no checking that apprentice,
actually exists.
It's not even that they exist. But how is that apprentice actually doing? Yeah. How are they, because they might be there this week, and then you might have another one next week, and another one next week, and another one next week. Whereas if you pulled the SME up to that level and had it coming in that way, then you would be able to have the knowledge of what's going on in their apprenticeship, and it's almost like that second step.
Yeah, so
the collaboration,
and that's what we're doing with Urban and Civic.
Is it?
So one of the big contracts we've got is with Urban and Civic. So we, for each development and each project, we work to the CITB framework. But we pull together a focus group. So that includes Urban and Civic. So probably the most recent one is Brahini, £10 million road that connects Alconbury up to Huntingdon. Set of KPIs they have to meet, and we meet every 2 to 3 months as a group. The college come in, who are teaching, the local groups come in, community groups come in, the job centre come in, and we just talk about what we're going to do and what we'll do on future projects. So we can effectively look in between the eyes. And one of the big things the CITB want, and naturally, is the case studies. So we follow in the 2 apprentices from obviously day one all the way through to completion of the apprenticeship. But you're right, there has to be a little bit of, and I think that's why Urban and Civic brought us in as well, is just to not to be the police, but just to oversee it and make sure it's happening in the right way.
I guess, yeah, because people aren't necessarily as accountable
No.
for what they're doing. So it's hard to keep people accountable. You can make someone really accountable for the numbers that they lay and, you know, in a day or whatever, and the quality that they do, because they're, you know, the NHBC or whoever it is checking the work. But who is actually checking how well the apprentices are getting on and what you're, you know. And if the KPIs are a number of people on site, that's not a very effective KPI.
No. And you can spin the numbers as well. So you've got to be a bit careful. But you look at, like, what's Gary, GSQ Gary, what's his ultimate goal? Is to build a house or build whatever he's been asked to build. Brahini, what's their ultimate? The civil engineers there is to build the road. The training and development it does play second fiddle, because they have to pay bills and make money, right? That's ultimately what the business is there to do. But what we need to do is make sure the next generation are given an opportunity. And we're just making sure that happens. We've got 2 local lads from neighbouring villages to where the site's being developed. And we just look them in the eyes. And actually, a lot of the, like, Brahini are very good at it anyway. They just perhaps don't record it or communicate it because they've got a day job, which is building a road. So we just come in and try and support them and help them and take the nervousness away and the concern, this is going to cost too much money, it's going to be too labour intensive. But honestly, they've done a great job with these 2 lads. They're qualified. They're PAYEs, so they're a little bit differently. They're not subbies, not self-employed, but they've done a good job. We've got a few more contracts coming up in the same form.
You don't mind when a company, like the top tier of company, take credit for that.
Yeah.
Because what sometimes happens is our apprentices get rolled out on everyone else's publicity. It's like, hang on, whoa. You're not paying their wages. Gary Staines and GSQ are paying the wages, and you're putting them in newspapers and LinkedIn posts and putting them in front of the Queen, or, well, not the Queen now, but what's her name, Princess Anne or whoever it is. Yeah. And you're like, you know, and I know that. Well, it certainly frustrates me. Gary's a little less, little more forgiving than I am, maybe. He really gets on my goat. But that is a frustration. But the good thing about it is that it's happening, I guess. Because the more we tell people about it, and the more we as you say, publicise the good work that is going on, hopefully the more people, if it is good work, you can publicise naff work as good work.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. You only have to look on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn,
do you know what I mean? And you're like, come on now.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not out here to, what I am trying to say is, like, well, maybe we do need more accountability, and you guys seem like you're doing that in a good way.
100%. I guess my morals and values and beliefs are that, like, we should be giving these kids an opportunity, right? And let's look back, right? That's a bit of a sweeping statement, but most MDs, directors, CEOs are probably in their 50s, 60s maybe. And some of them have come from bottom all the way up, which is lovely to see. But most of them have started in some sort of trainee role or an apprenticeship role. And this honestly, the debates I used to have with my dad about this when he used to moan, I was like, you were that kid at one point, and you were useless, as you're kindly telling them they are. They're not useless. They're just not skilled yet. They've not had the opportunity. They didn't have the opportunity you had in the school.
Well, and also it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because all of the people that I've had who are either CEOs, managing directors on the Hodcast have either, as you say, been apprentices or been in the army. Do you know what I mean? Like, so but every generation is different from the last one or the two last ones. Yeah. So, you know, my granddad's passed now, but your dad or your granddad or whoever has a different way of doing things than you do. And, you know, my dad, or in fact, my wife's dad, great. He's got patents. He's got a patent wall. He used to work for Ford.
Right, okay.
Not Marshall Ford, but
Yeah.
but Ford.
Yeah.
He used to work for Ford, and he designed like most of the interior of like the Ford Transit van engines and all that stuff. Got patents everywhere, all over his walls, right? But he has a different mindset to what my son will have when he comes in. If he because it's almost. I'm almost certain that he wants to be a builder. He wants to work in construction or engineering or something. He's 4. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's like, Dad, I just want to go and lay bricks. Yeah. So for Christmas, we're getting him a little bricklaying thing, which is going to be cute. But he trying to get those two on the same page is hard, and you'll always whinge about the
previous generation.
The next generation are lazy and they can't be bothered to turn up for work and this and that and the other. That's not a new problem. No, that is an age-old problem. You know, so it's difficult, right? So we're saying that most of those people are CEOs or managing directors. If you had a room full of those CEOs from the UK's biggest construction firms, what would you challenge them to do today?
Meaningful CSR. I think it's
for a mere mortal.
Corporate social responsibility. Right. I think without the risk of being really pokey, I think of a lot of it is fluffy.
So.
I don't.
If someone's listening to this and they don't know what that is, explain that in layman's terms, and then tell me how they can do it.
So I look at. This was criticism I used to get in the previous role. Is I try and oversimplify everything, and I think everything's relatively simple, and there's always a solution for everything. Right? We can put a bloody man on the moon. Right? Mm-hmm. We can get kids into a job. But corporate social responsibility is just like local employment, local opportunities, local training. Helping the supply chain, whether it's like we get help from the supply chain with regards to materials, so we don't have to purchase them. We've got a canopy coming in the next few weeks that site had on, and now they've moved and the development's finished, so they're going to donate to us. I just think sometimes it's some of the big boys is a bit too fluffy, and it's not meaningful, and it doesn't have a huge impact. Like we work in Cambridge, and not many people know this, and I didn't know. No, I'll put my hands up. I didn't really know this until I was a few years into Marshall. Like we have an estate in Cambridge called North Cams. Mm-hmm. So those in Cambridge will know it as the Arbury. So it's had a bit of a rebrand. They have a school there that has the highest free school dinners than any other school in East Anglia, right?
We've done workshops in that school.
Yeah, you have. Yeah. It's 2.5 miles from the city centre. Cambridge has the biggest inequality gap of any city in the UK now. I can never remember which side of the railway line, the old railway line it is, but they have 11 years life expectancy less than the rest of Cambridge, right? It is bloody frightening, right? And it should not happen. And it doesn't get talked about overly in Cambridge because it's a bit snobby, dare I say it. And there's a lot of wealth there, and I get that, right? And we've got the best university, arguably the best university in the world. I know Oxford and some of the US universities might differ and disagree with me.
But it's just so it's the best university in the world for the things that it does. Yeah. So it doesn't do everything.
No, it doesn't.
But the things that it does, people come from all over the world to it.
We've got AstraZeneca, we've got ARM, we've got
Google, Apple. Yeah. You name it.
Even Adamant's NHS, arguably one of the best in the UK, right?
First-hand experience, the best in the UK.
Yeah, and now they've got Papworth, who just joined, which is the best heart hospital, first heart transplant in the world, I think, at the time when it did it. Like, we've got serious wealth, but we've got a pocket. And I went to North Academy School pre-COVID, actually. I've been there quite a few times after, but they've got kids that will sit in the lunch hall all lunch and to eat 2 dinners because that's the only dinner that they get in a day. That is absolutely scandalous. And some of them don't have any books at home, and you wonder why the literacy is behind the national average. It's like they do not have an opportunity. Like the whole Marcus Rashford thing is like, it's the same with that school. When that school shuts for 6 weeks holidays, the food bank just explodes because the kids don't eat. And Cambridge is its own bubble. If you look at East Anglia in Cambridge, if you look at the amount of infrastructure construction projects, I think there's 38 at the last count. Somebody said it is just growing at a phenomenal rate. you've got North East Cams Development. It's 2 miles from North Cambridge Academy. Right? They could cycle there. They could work on that site for the next 19, 20 years. Right? What an opportunity to take yourself out of poverty and give them an opportunity. And look, let's not kid ourselves. It's the same as the job centre. Not everybody wants to work, and you're not going to get everybody into work. We have to be realistic. But some of these kids don't even know these opportunities exist. No. And like you going in at GSQ and going into schools is brilliant. Like my goal, and I said this from day one when I went into Marshall, is I look at my dad and I think he would be on the scrap heap now, and I probably wouldn't have gone to university and I wouldn't have got the opportunities I had, because I think he got a CSE in woodwork, metalwork, PE and geography. He still can't explain to me why geography. His attendance was 40%, for God's sake. They didn't care because they didn't want him in school because he was a bit of a troublemaker. But he went to Colston's, did an apprentice. He was apprentice of the year in his year group. Wow. He would be on the scrap heap now because there's no apprenticeships. He wouldn't have got his GCSEs in maths, science and English. So he wouldn't have got on a level 3 apprenticeship. And then what do we do with him? He goes to education till he's 18. He does a level 2 qualification, which has no site experience or very little site experience. They don't get a CSCS card at the end of it. So you can't even get on a site. And you've got no site experience. And we wonder why, what did the statistics CITB said? 33% of those that start a construction training course actually complete it.
1 in 3. That's a joke.
It's madness. It's madness. Yet we've got, if you look at CITB stats, by 2028, is it we're going to be 250,000 people short in the industry? And if you look at the stats, the amount that are leaving year after year after year is just going to get bigger.
So talk to me, level 2. Talk to me about that, because I sort of understand. My understanding of it is that it is a qualification that you do at college, which is what happens when people come to us. They're like, "Oh, I've done bricklaying. I've got a level 2 bricklaying at college." Yeah. I'm really sorry, mate, but that equates to absolutely nothing in this industry.
Yeah. So those that stay in education, if they don't get their GCSEs in C, grade C as we would called it back in our day, they go to do a level 2. The challenge is full-time education, but the challenge is, like I said, is you get no site experience. I was in an electrical round table, and they've got the same problem. So the 250,000 shortage doesn't include electricians because they're not part of this. They're not part of the CITB. I think that hopefully that's going to happen. But they've got the same problem in electrical, and one of the managing directors sat there and said 80% of what they teach on a level 2 in electrical in a local college is irrelevant. And I'm sitting there saying, I'm going to have to put my hand up here. Like, why are we teaching them it then? Why are we teaching 80%? And then I got the comment where it's part of the national curriculum. Yeah, and without no shit Sherlock sort of thing. But I get that. But we need to change it then, because you're setting these kids up to fail. Yeah. The businesses don't want them.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because you know, I'm really keen, and I was talking with a woman called Jill Willis, who's really just incredible woman. Yeah. She's really into marketing, right? And the idea of marketing to younger children is actually what we want. If we want to close the skills gap sort of in the next 10, 15 years, we need to start at like my son who's 4. Yep. and keep chipping away and telling them how good it is, how great it is.
I think the data and all the really clever people say it's about 7 to 9, isn't it? That it shapes what you're going to do.
Yeah. So if you haven't got in 2 or 3 years before that, there's no chance when you're 10 or 11. Yeah. So, but the problem is, and as you're saying, like if we can encourage all these people to do that and take that path. But if they take that path and can't get anywhere at the end, like how do you, do you know what I mean?
I know it is bonkers. But them level 2 students would historically have done an apprenticeship. I would. That's a bit of a sweeping statement.
No, I think you're probably right.
But then they would have got site experience, because part of the apprenticeship is class and site, right? And I think, and I'm not, look, please don't anybody think I'm knocking the colleges. I think they do a fantastic job. But that 80% was a staggering statistic, and I don't know why we just don't change it or don't try and change it. Like the two lads that were on the apprentices on Brahini, one of them went to a local college and did the level 2 in electrical, which then progressed on. Then the natural progression was the level 3 apprenticeship in electrical, which you need to get your cards and all your approvals. One of the 30 got an apprenticeship. So you've put all them kids, giving them all that hope that they're going to become a Sparky, and 1 out of 30 got an apprenticeship.
Why is that though? What is it about that?
Because,
and what is it about it? Firstly, and these aren't questions I've written down, but I'm genuinely interested, and I think everyone else will be. Why does that happen, and how can we change it?
Some of it is a self-employed problem that we're going to have to work out how we get around. It is a challenge, and I to be honest, I don't know the answer other than bring them back on PAYE. So I know GSQ do, don't they, for their apprenticeship? For
the apprentices, yeah. Because you have to.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one way round it. But if you're not going to do an apprenticeship, like, you have to try and get them site experience somehow. And industry has to take some responsibility for that, right? Because it has to give them site experience. And it's just getting out there, and you're not going to change the apprenticeship model with regards to being employed. Skills England were talking about sort of employing them as a trainee and do a sort of module to build it up, and that's not a bad shout.
But who's going to what? So who would employ them?
Well, yeah. I guess you. I don't know. That's the question.
Skills England aren't going to.
No,
they're not.
Them. They're not in industry. It's just. The problem is in construction is you just, I don't know why I'm using my hands on a podcast.
No, well, people there's cameras, they will see you.
But like, it's peaks and troughs, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I get why they've done it, because you reduce your risk to your bottom line, right? I get it from a financial position. I think if you had a consistent flow of work, if we ever get to the 1.5 million houses built in 5 years level, that might give businesses an opportunity to get a flow. But are they going to go back 20 years and to the old model? I'm not sure they are. You just have to. Industry needs to get into the colleges and give them a better opportunity for once they finish the level 2, that they come in and they've got something that adds value. It is a conundrum. Yeah. It is a conundrum. But look at the GSQ model, right? We've put individuals through a 6-week boot camp, and at no stage have we ever said you're going to be a competent bricklayer in 6 weeks, right? That is not the case. But we want you to. It's outside. It's hands-on. It's 6 weeks, and this morning it's cold. We just wanted to make it as real life as possible to see if it's something they want to do. Because it's not for everybody, and then so we've gone through the 6 weeks, and then obviously Gary's taken them as site operatives. He's gonna and they'll labour a little bit. They'll lay a little bit of a few bricks, which Sarah's doing, and then if they really want to do it, we could do the level 3 or level 2 through a college as a day release, but not as an apprenticeship. I think that's where you'll go. You'll just do as a standalone qualification outside of the apprenticeship. But again, then who pays for that? Does the individual pay for that? Does Gary pay for it? Now we're quite lucky in Cambridge and Peterborough with the combined local authorities because of devolved government, and I know that's coming to Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, etc. And that just gives them more funding for adult post-19 education. So that's where we get a lot of our funding from. So we would look to speak to them to use that to help the individual progress to the next level.
Yeah.
But I think that is the only way around it. The electrical one's a real dilemma.
Yeah,
a real dilemma.
Yeah, because they're not part of that framework, are they?
No.
Well, that sort of covers the one of the main questions of what is the solution. So it's a site ready solution. So when you say GSQ, it's sort of like a hybrid version. So site ready solutions is the sort of the sister of GSQ, and that they're Gary and Keith are doing a great job at sort of trying to close that skills gap, because GSQ need bricklayers and actually one of Gary's Gary does his YouTube channel, and one of the videos he put up, I think it'll be a couple of weeks ago now, but was about hod carriers, or he's about hod carriers, and the fact that is his sort of that's what's burning his hair at the moment, that he doesn't have any hod carriers, you know, and the idea of bringing someone in as a new, you know, someone with no skill necessarily, but a good attitude. You look at Shara and Sarah, right? Very limited skill, amazing attitudes. They turn up, they're there, you know, when they're there, they're fully present. They just want to get it done, and you know, and they is it Charlotte rings you every?
She rings me every day.
So you know,
feels like she's ringing
which
dad.
is amazing. So and I guess your take on that is something needs to change, and
and there is like, we like the boot camp funding, and I think what's setting us apart is at the minute is we will solve the electrical problem, because it is literally getting in a room and listening to what industry wants from a different lens and a different angle, and we will solve the problem. It will take time. It will take people to think differently outside the box. Like we work with West Suffolk College, and the principal there, Lorraine Moody, is she's just entrepreneurial, right? She just thinks differently, and she tries stuff, and she's a bit like me. Which just says yes, and then we'll work out we're going to do it after. But we quite like that. And we've got just through the Cambridge and Peterborough Combined Local Authority, we've won a bid in conjunction with West Suffolk College to build a training facility in Wintringham on a construction site as part of Urban and Civic. So we won 1.3 million. We're using a little bit like here. The organisation we're working with builds modular homes. But eco-friendly, like super eco-friendly, don't take much power from the grid, but they use ex-offenders on Rottle to help build it. They're local in Peterborough, so they're going to get the majority of the 1.3 million to build it. So it's quite a nice story for Cambridge and Peterborough, but we will run boot camps, introductions to construction, and we're hoping to get about 1,200 people through it in 3 years.
Wow!
And the good thing is when people say I can't find people, they'll literally be on site. We're hoping if we can tick the right boxes, we'll get CSCS examination centre on. So we just have everything in one place.
That's another real difficult one, right? Because CSCS cards, as the health and safety manager, that is like the bane of my life, because that is just a massive barrier to people coming onto site. Like, if you've not turned up to school, you're probably not that good at reading or writing, and going, oh, by the way, you have to get 45 out of these 50 questions right, otherwise you don't get a job. Yeah, you're like,
it's memory retention.
Yeah,
and look, that you'll know from your health and safety background, right? The industry had to do something, right, to change the accidents, near misses, etc. And it's a good way of making sure that everybody is a certain standard. But going back to my kids, I know my 12, who's super intelligent and unbelievable memory. If I sat him on that app for a week, he'd pass that.
Well, this is what I say to the guys. So when we have our trainees and our skills developers and stuff, I say to them, they're like, oh, I can't pass. I'm like, there are 500 questions. Yeah. If you do that test, if you do the test 20 times on the app, you will see most of those 500 questions, if not once, twice, 3 times. All you need to do is remember the right answer. Yeah, and I think if you've been, so my challenge to the CITB with that card is, right, if you're on one of your sites and you're with one of the black hats, right, super skilled, super experienced, right, knows the site, has worked on construction for years, right, and you're going to have a company induction, right? Whether it will be a GSQ induction, it'll be where have I been on a Bellway in a hill site? They have their own induction. I don't understand. And let's say they've got they're on site. You are not going to leave them unattended to hurt himself, right? I don't believe anybody would do that. So the interesting thing about that is you're right. Yeah. So you are right that no one is intentionally going to do that. But the insurance behind it says that you can't. Even if. We've had stupid claims, literally stupid claims before. someone like hurt themselves at football on the Sunday, came in on the Monday and faked an injury.
Yeah.
Like beyond that, that's a trust issue though, right? But and this is where it sort of falls down. Like accidents do actually just happen.
Yeah.
And if the first thing the insurer says, or the loss adjuster comes in and says, were they trained to do the job that they're doing? And the only way you can check that now is with a card, a CSCS card.
But if you're on site for a month, right? Because I think if you come from an engineer, manufactured construction background, you could probably pass that test if you've been in that environment first time.
Yeah,
because you recognise it, the words. You'd probably
the questions are worded weirdly as well. Nowadays,
which don't help. But I just think if you let them on site for a month to experience that in that involvement in that environment, and then put them through the test, first of all the pass rate would be improved, and it's not about improve. You've got to get the right people on site, right? Because they've got to remain safe. I understand that, but it is a challenge. There's a cost implication. If you're unemployed,
you can't afford it.
No, it's £6.99 for the app.
Yeah, and then you're £30-something for the test.
Then you've got to pay for the cards.
Then for another £30-something for the card, and you have to do a one-day health and safety test, which is like £100.
Correct.
So you're looking like 200. That's like potentially all of your. That's like 2 weeks' money. Is it like £90 a week or something?
Yeah, and my challenge back would be the CITP is funded by industry. And then the individuals have to pay to get in. I'm not saying that should it be free. I would argue that your first card should be. If you're in a job and you're and you want to go to like further your career and you've got an opportunity, you're earning money. You can probably afford it.
Or if they do it now, they're doing it every 3 years instead of 5, aren't they?
Yeah.
So in fact it's 2. If you're a labourer, it's 2 years, and then you get 3 years after that.
Yeah. So we paid for Shahs, we paid for Sarah's, we paid for all the females in the prison. Ephraim, who was on site, we paid for. Or everybody that come through the boot camp, we paid for, because they're all unemployed. Their job seekers allowance, etc. No, it's the same as the colleges. It's not part of the level 2. It might be in some colleges. In the colleges around us, it isn't. So then they come out.
North Kent, it is. We've had some in Kent. We've had some young lads there actually, and they did their CSCS. They weren't allowed to leave college until they completed it, which I think is actually
it should be part of the curriculum.
But that was to do with the Construction Youth Trust. Wendy at the Construction Youth Trust went in and made sure that they'd done that.
Yeah, okay.
Like, it's not necessarily a college thing, because essentially, like I've talked about it before with other people, like college, the way that college is set up is they get money for the bum on the seat, or they get some for the bum on the seat and then some when they complete. So like you've got half your money already.
Yeah.
Just for them being there.
But we're even talking to a local school in Cambridge about this school's got 30 kids at risk of permanent exclusion. What do they do with them? They can't put them in a classroom because they're disruptive. They're gonna become a stat at some point, or worst of all, they're gonna end up in a prison. Let's bring back that GCSE. Let's get them back in. We've modelled it, and we've got the costs, and we're looking to build up like a micro construction site in the school as a GCSE. We've got some funding, and let's give these kids an opportunity, because at 16 you have to make a decision which could impact the whole of your life, right? But without all the facts, how do you know you want to do construction if you've never had a go at it?
Yeah.
And I know we have careers days, etc., but most of the careers days are in a school hall.
Well, and most of them aren't attended by like actual tradespeople.
Correct.
They're like, you've got, and don't get me wrong, like there's salespeople or whatever marketing people in, it's fine, but there's nothing. You say Pat, one of the trainers that works, that works for Site Ready and GSQ, if you got him in to do that, you'd instantly people are just drawn. People are just drawn to him as well. It's like, okay, you've got something about you. I want to be like Pat. Do you know what I mean?
So Brahini were the same. So part of the KPIs is around careers and telling the world what Brahini do. And I think it would be fair to say they're a little bit nervous about going into school hall just talking to 200 kids on this carousel. So we said, okay, let's do it differently. We'll bring them to site. I'm not saying we didn't bring 200, but we gave the opportunity to the school to say we could have between 10 and 15 kids that want to come to site to look at this road, right? Doesn't sound, does it sound that interesting? But when they get on site, you've got the CAD guys, you've got the drone guys, you've got the guys with the plant machinery. Like the questions and the engagement from these kids, like Brahini were like, it is that we just want to do this from now on. The engagement was phenomenal.
The problem is the cash, though, right? Because we do that with our clients. We did it in Harlow.
Yeah.
We were building a small house and estate literally right next to the school. So we had a whole year group come from the school, 30 at a time, a class of 30 at a time, and they went between health and safety, quantity surveying, and bricklaying. So they got to lay bricks, they got to do a health and safety inspection on the site, and they got to quantity survey. So they'd count up all the bricks and work out how much they were going to get paid, essentially. And the school were like, "This is amazing," but you have to shut the site for a day. You have to, there's 5 of our senior leadership team are all there. Like, that's not no money. Do you know what I mean? And that's the difficult part, isn't it? Well, we have put the world through some serious riots today. 2 last quick questions. Yep. What is one belief you wish every young person could carry into their working life? Not even young. What every non-working person, whether that be young or someone out of work, could carry into their working life?
Work hard. Just work. If you working hard brings you opportunities, right? And I'm a big believer in that. So I mentioned there I coach a football team, right? So we went over to play a team 9:00 in the morning in January as a friendly. And we were useless, right? It was pouring down with rain. It weren't a pleasant footballing day, and I don't care whether we win or lose, right? There might be people that disagree with that, right? Because they are developing. None of them are going to be the next Ronaldo or Messi, right? They're good, but they're not that good, right? It's still grassroots football. And I said to him at half time, like, I don't mind you giving the ball away. I don't mind you trying stuff differently. But what I can't tolerate and I will not accept is you don't work hard. And you scream and shout and it's everybody else's fault. You have to take some responsibility sometimes in life and you have to work hard in life. That's the only thing we really and have fun. They're the 3 main requirements of football for us. And I said, please, all I'll ask you in the second half is you work hard, take responsibility and have a bit of fun because this isn't enjoyable for anybody at the minute. Second half, honest to God, they did exactly the same. Right? And I was like, and I have to remember, right, they're 11 years old, right? And my dad told me I was evil after. Because afterwards, I said to him, right, there is 20 to 30 parents over there who are standing out in the rain. They've come to watch this, and it was rubbish because you didn't even work hard. So you'll now go and apologise to them all. And I made them go and apologise to every single parent for their because it's a good lesson in life. Like you have to work hard. Like I look at my dad, and I can tell you the one instance my dad had a day off. He worked for 40 years and he slipped his disc in Watford and my granddad had to go and pick him up with his stator car because he laid him down in the back. Really? And he was off work for 2 weeks, lying on the living room floor. It's the only time I ever remember my dad having off. And that installs that, like, and I could tell you loads of stories. I worked for Burger King when I was younger, right? I was shift manager. And I used to go during the university breaks. I used to go back and work there, and I worked there before university. And I remember going out on a Saturday night and drinking way too much and having the worst hangover for Sunday. And I was shift manager. I was opening up, and I thought I can't get my head off the pillow. I felt I was proper rough, like self-inflicted, right? So there's not a lot of sympathy. Anyway, so the alarm goes off, and I hit snooze. And I think I'm just going to ring in sick. So my mum comes in, get out of bed. Mum, I can't go in, I'm proper rough. You're not rough, you're hungover. And I was like, no, Mum, I can't get up. And my mum's like northern, right? She was tough, right? Very disciplined. Get out of bed. Mum, I can't, I'm going to ring up sick. And the door shut. And I thought, well, that was a bit easier than I thought. Anyway, I went back to sleep. Next thing I know, she poured a whole jug of cold water over my head in bed. And she said, take some responsibility, get your ass out of bed. She said, it's not about you, you're letting other people down. And it's them sort of lessons you learn, right, when you're growing up. And so I would say hard work and responsibility are the 2 but I guess it's installed sometimes from your parents, right? But yeah, Wasn't
Well, that is an incredible story. Your mum sounds like an absolute
she was brutal,
legend.
to be fair.
Yeah, for sure.
She was brutal with us.
But you can sometimes, like, that's a good thing. That is a good thing.
Yeah,
I think more people, like, lovingly brutal.
Yeah.
Not just, like, brutal for the sake of being brutal, but lovingly brutal.
Yeah.
Like, this is a lesson you need to learn. Like the kids in your football team, you know, you need to learn to take responsibility. And these people have done a lot for you, so you can jolly well go and apologise
and
for
at
not
least
giving
work hard.
everything.
Working hard's a minimum, right?
No, it doesn't cost you anything.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't cost you anything to work hard,
no.
right? Finally, if you could choose one person for me to interview next, who would you put in that chair?
Oh, God. Can I give you two? Can I give you like an industry one and then a personal one?
I don't know it.
Industry, and I'll pick this person because I'd like to sit next to you. I would love to bring the CEO in of the CITB.
Oh, I should know his name.
I can't remember his name.
I can't think of his name.
But you know,
well, that's doable.
Yeah.
You give me his number. Have you got his number?
I haven't got his number, but we can get his number.
We'll get his number.
We can get his number. But I would like to talk to him because they're the training board, industry training board, right? And we've got 250,000 people. And I'm not putting all the blame at their door, I should add. But I would like to, I'd like to talk to him and challenge some of the stuff that they do. On a personal, Sir Alex Ferguson, right? he's the.
Well, have you got his number?
No, I definitely haven't got his number.
World, so.
Do you know what? I go watch Peterborough a lot now because they're more local than Man United. And Steve, who I work with, is a big Peterborough fan. So we got there with the kids and we did the flag bearing day. And Darren Ferguson was manager of Peterborough at the time. And the guy was taking around saying, this is Darren Ferguson's office, right? He's in there at the minute. Anybody got any questions? And my lad, Jack, said, I'd like to ask him if he's got can I bring his dad? But yeah, look, he's I love him and I love his books and he was a bit evil at times, but his change in behaviour, attitude, and just modernising with the times, right, from his leadership style. And he's the greatest manager and he managed the greatest club in the world, right? And it's the greatest sport in the world. I just love listening to him talk and the stories. And if you'd listen to him, he talks about he would rather have taken a youngster or professional from a working class background than that's had everything, because they work harder and they have to graft and they've been brought up to learn to graft, and we don't always get that in there. But yeah, I think so Sir Alex Ferguson.
Perfect. Well, thank you
very
very
much.
much. You
thank you
definitely
for
got
having me.
Greeny because he's a massive United fan.
Is he?
He is, yeah.
I know I liked him.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, and it's been a great conversation.
Thank you
really
for having
good
me.
conversation.
Thank you for having me. Perfect.